Hey, what's up, all you witches and wizards out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming back at you with another episode review of The Owl House. This time it's episode 5, titled Covention. As we open up, we see Ida once again back at it trying to sell off human collectibles, and Luz still engaging in her fantasies. And as always, Ida is a little less than interested in Luz's fantasies. She feels that it's too flowery and just kind of made up. It romanticizes the witch's life. Kind of like how someone in the army would see a movie that kind of paints the army as something overly glamorous, more so than it actually is. However, we see that business is kind of slow, but there's a reason behind this, as Willow and Gus pop up and say that there is a convention going on, a convention for covens, so that young witches and wizards can actually get a feel for different covens and slowly shift into being into one of them. However, Ida is not interested in going as she hasn't gone there except when she was younger with someone specific who she does not name outright. However, Luz is able to get Ida to go with them by having King read off some passages from Luz's book, which is akin to torture for Ida. So Ida attends, although she goes incognito, and that's because she's still a wanted person. And something that I learn here is that it wasn't, in the first episode, I thought that it was only that Warden Wrath wanted her because he wanted to date her. But no, it goes a lot deeper than that. It wasn't just because she would not conform, like as portrayed there. It's that she didn't join a coven. Yes, she still wanted for petty theft and all that stuff. She's still a criminal on that level. But it's very clear that the Emperor wants everyone to be in sections, in cliques. He likes his order. And, Ida doesn't fall into that category, so she is a fugitive from the laws of the land. So I kind of like that clarification into how all this works. It creates a deeper meaning behind all of the rules and regulations of this world. And it makes a lot of sense, honestly. But we see that there are 9 primary covens, yeah, a multitude of them in general, but there's 9 very popular ones. And we find out, whereas Willow is more in plant-based covens, we find out that Gus actually is in the illusionary coven. He practices illusions, which I was wondering about that because we didn't see it when he was first introduced. But that actually is pretty cool. I want to see more of his illusionary prowess. But Ida still shows that she's not really interested in that kind of stuff. And while Luz kind of questions why she wouldn't have such a big problem with covens, what's the downside here? Ida makes it very clear, and that is because once you join a coven, your other magics are sealed off. You can only perform one type of magic. Whereas Ida, who has not joined a coven, is able to use any kind of magic that she pleases, which, yeah, I can kind of understand that. Like, Hmm. Yeah, okay. I can get why you'd want to rebel against that. I'm surprised more people don't want to just be like, yeah, no, I'm not sealing away all my other types of magic and all that. Meanwhile, King gets into the world of free swag as various different covens start giving him stuff in order to get them to join, despite the fact that he doesn't do magic. Like, hello? But we see that the main event is the Emperor's Coven, a special type of coven. that we'll learn a little bit more of as we go. But while Luz is all too interested because she's still trying to learn for herself about the world of the Boiling Isles, Ida has no interest. That is until she gets kind of spotted and outed as the Owl Lady. So we find that the Emperor's Coven, during a presentation by Principal Bump, is actually made up of people who are able to use any magic that they so choose. So, of course, it makes sense. The Emperor would only have those who can use any type of magic as his close personal guard, because that's politics. Those with all the power, naturally you would have them in your closest circle. Like, magical world, same old politics. But we also, get to see that Amity is in attendance, and it's made very clear that she is all too interested in joining the Emperor's Coven. And we get introduced to the leader of this coven, Lilith. And, she makes this big presentation and a big show of her prowess, but Ida is particularly displeased by her being here. And as Luz wants to see more, Ida just wants to get out of there as quickly as possible. But Luz ends up bumping into Amity, who is still pissed off about the events of the previous episode, where she ended up getting in trouble. And she even goes as far to step on a cupcake that King dropped by accident, mocking King in the process. And this pisses Luz off something fierce, and Luz challenges Amity to a witch's duel, with the terms being that if Luz should win, Amity will have to apologize to both her and King. But should Luz lose, that means that she has to stop practicing magic. Oof. The gauntlet has been thrown, and for good measure, it has been sealed within a forever agreement. I don't know what the downside to this is, but, it might be some penalty. So if Luz ever tries to, practice magic again, she's like shocked or some crap like that. But Luz realizes, she probably tried to cash a check that her tush can't cash. Meanwhile, speaking of rivalries, we come to find out that Lilith is none other than Ida's big sister, older by 2 years, in fact. And, that while Ida is a wanted fugitive and Lilith questions why she would be here, she thinks that maybe Ida has come to join her in the Emperor's Coven, which, no, no, not at all. And they get into a bit of a tough with Ida, saying how she's the one who's molding new minds with her own student. And they even challenge each other to show off their two students. Although they come to find out that the duel has already been put down. The gauntlet has already been thrown when Luz comes in panicking that Amity has challenged her to a duel. And Lilith is kind of like, oh, it's a human. Humans can't do magic. This should be short. So she walks away mocking Ida and Luz. And while Ida tries to train Luz a bit, Luz is kind of accepted that she's probably going to die in this battle. As we see Amity training a bit, and Amity's got her stuff down. She can summon abominations like nobody's business. And Luz kind of has already accepted that she's probably going to be defeated, but Ida has a plan. So, when the witch's duel starts to commence, we find out that Ida has buried different traps underneath the arena. So, you step on one, a spell goes off. But Luz isn't quite sure about this, as she feels that, while she might have a chance at winning, she'll know that she was a loser in her heart. But the duel commences and the fight proceeds, with Amity summoning a creature that even she's kind of surprised by. But not an abomination twice as big. No, three times, maybe five times bigger than what she normally can summon. But it ends up stepping on one of the mines, being engulfed in flames and various different spells. Meanwhile, King has gotten a massing of swag, but this trips him up, sending him hurtling into the arena onto one of the traps, which launches a bed of spikes. which, yeah, dude, Ida, a child was involved here. Not cool. Not cool, dude. But Amity realizes that Luz has been cheating. And, Luz tries to explain to Amity that it wasn't her idea, but Amity is having none of it and starts to storm off, only for Ida to notice that she had a construction coven sigil on the back of her neck, which allows her to be powered up, which explains the massive size of her abominations. And while Ida, basks in the fact that apparently Lilith had done this because she knew that Ida was going to cheat, Ida basks in the fact that her sister was brought down to her level. But Amity is really, really devastated by this. Being someone who, you know, loves to be able to just show off her own skill and power, this makes it seem like she was in line with a cheater, which she just can't stand and she runs away. But that's probably for the best as a true witches' duel erupts as the two Clawthorn sisters go at it. But Luz tries to comfort Amity to some extent. But Amity explains that, yo, dude, I have been training my whole life for this. To you, this is all fun and games. But to me, the Emperor's Coven, all of this is my life. This is what I strive for. You are not a witch. You do not have any power. You do not have any ability. You don't deserve to be here. So, while she does admit that she is not a witch, Luz, sits Amity down and shows her that she is at least able to do something, that she is at least trying to be a witch, showing her the light spell that she learned not too long ago. Which, takes Amity a bit off guard, as she thought that humans had no power of their own. Meanwhile, oh my goodness, the showdown between Lilith and Ida is just so beautifully animated. Just spells coming out of this way and that way. I love how they do spells because it's very reminiscent of Full Metal Alchemist and how they would form the circle and just boom, and how Ed could just, by clapping his hands together to form the circle, he would press and the thing would be created or things would pop out of this way and that way. It's just so amazing. And I love the moment where you see Lilith with the spell around her arm so that she can fast cast different spells and stuff, and Ida's just kind of messing with her by summoning all these owl heads just that look like Hootie all over the place. It is just so incredible. It's just a masterfully done cast of spells, a masterfully done, and a series of animation. Because Spencer Wan was in on this yet again, so it's just like, yep, that explains why the animation was just so good here. But ultimately, Lilith is able to gain the upper hand, but Ida talks her down a bit by mentioning the curse. And, Ida saying that she came here because she didn't know how much more time she had. It's getting harder to fight off the curse and this and that. And Lilith shows a little bit of sympathy towards her sister. Unfortunately, this was all a ruse so that Ida could just escape. And while Amity notes that while Luz hadn't learned that advanced of a spell, it's still pretty amazing. And Luz knows that while she can't do magic the traditional way, she can still do something. And this causes Amity to have at least a momentary change of heart, and she undoes the binding contract, allowing Luz to learn. Because, even if they had gone on with the terms, Luz would just find another way. But I see this as Amity at least not wanting to stop someone from bettering themselves. She believes in hard work, and Luz has at least shown that she's willing to put in that work, something that Amity can understand all too well. The Ice Queen's heart is melting. Unfortunately, this little moment is cut short as Ida is all too quick and ready to get out of there. And while Luz starts to question what kind of witch she can be, especially without a coven, Ida says that Luz is better off just being her own witch and finding her own way. Meanwhile, Lilith heads back to her dressing room, all too pissed off at her sister, especially since Ida tied her shoes together. Like, dude, come on. And, Lilith ends up being contacted by the assistant of the Emperor, Kikamura, who relays the fact that, she let her sister get the best of her, and there were certain terms that Lilith needs to fulfill, which involves capturing Ida for the Emperor. So Lilith, reaffirms her stance that she will capture her sister one way or the other. So, oof, the plot thickens. I love it. I love it so much. We learned so much in this episode. The true depths of why Ida is wanted, not only for not joining a coven, not only for petty theft, but because the Emperor has a special interest in Ida herself. So I like that. I like the fact that you have this question of what is it that the Emperor wants from Ida? How does Ida's curse, what's the true depths of Ida's curse? And is it really getting worse? Was that all a lie? Or are Ida's days numbered before she fully turns in to that magical owl-like beast? And what is this agreement that Lilith has, undergone with the Emperor? What are the true depths of where this is going? Why does he want Ida? And what are the terms of conditions in what they agreed to? Is Lilith ultimately trying to save her sister? Or is it something deeper than that? I can't wait to find out, and I hope you'll join me for yet another episode, a review of The Owl House. But until then, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din. Leave me a like or a dislike depending on how you felt about this review, and subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another Owl House episode review. But until then, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.